In front of my window, there's a beautiful and lofty spruce tree. Right over there. It stands about 60 feet tall on the pathway to my building. It's no different than any other spruce tree, but it is my friend. I speak with it, and it speaks to me. I watch it watching me from the living room window, and it teaches me. Here are 7 things you can learn from a tree. The first thing my tree teaches me is patience. My tree is very tall, but I can imagine a day when it was not tall, when it was very, very, very small, when all its size and potential was contained in a tiny little seedling. And with the help of time, the help of the elements, the sunshine, the rain, with the help of kind people, kind gardeners, who imagined my tree tall and large, my tree grew, never losing sight of its potential, never losing sight of where it's bound. Sometimes we have dreams, we have visions, we have goals, and we start working for them. But after working for a short time and not seeing the results we expected, we stop. We let our self-doubt stop our work, stop our effort. Patience means to have a vision and also to continue working day after day, even if we don't see immediately the results that we're expecting. We have to believe in ourselves. We have to believe in our potential. Sometimes we are like those little seedlings. We are like a little seed, small seed, a tiny seed. And when you look at a seed, it's very hard to imagine the tree that one day is going to grow from that seed. But if we work day by day, if we trust time, and maybe also with the help of kind gardeners, one day we will reach the dream that we've dreamed of. One day we'll reach the goal that we envisioned. One day we'll look back and we'll see how much we have improved, how much we have grown. So even if we don't see the results that we expected immediately, even if we don't see them in the short term, let us develop patience. And eventually we'll get to where we want to get to, because we built our road with our own hands. My tree also teaches me about dignity. Rain or shine, my tree stands tall. It reminds me that we human beings can also make an effort to be dignified. And what does it mean to be dignified? It means that regardless of the circumstances, that can be good or bad, we don't lose sight of our center, of our axis, of who we are. When the circumstances are good, we don't lose our head. When the circumstances are bad, we don't lose our self-respect. To have dignity means to have our head in the sky and our feet in the ground. My tree also speaks to me of resilience. Chicago, if you know it, could be very windy. But my tree has not cracked yet, it has not broken yet, it still stands. Yes, it bends with the wind, it sways with the wind, but in spite of that, or maybe because of that, it still stands. Sometimes we have an image of resilience as a false sense of strength, just holding on no matter what. But resilience is actually an interesting combination of strength. but also flexibility. To be resilient means to be able to be flexible about the things that are not essential to us. We have things in our lives that are very important to us, and we have things that are not that important. Yet we let those things that are not as important disturb us, bother us, move us, shake us. To be resilient means, on one hand, to be flexible, to be willing to sway, to bend, to compromise on the things that are not as essential to us. And, on the other hand, to be rooted in our principles, to be rooted in the things that are important to us, our principles, our human values, those things that are important for us today and will be also important for us tomorrow and in the far future. These are the things that we truly should be strong about, that we should be insistent about. But there are many other things that are not that important, and we waste so much time on them. To be resilient in that sense is that interesting combination of being able to be flexible on one hand, like my tree, and to be strong on the other. My tree also teaches me about diversity and convergence. It has many different branches, each growing in different direction, each different in length, in height. Some of them bend downwards toward the earth, others curve upwards to the sky. And yet, despite all these differences, having so many branches, all of these branches join, meet together in one point, in one center, in one axis, which is the trunk. A broken branch is no longer useful to a tree. Our societies are also diverse. They contain people from all walks of life, from different ethnicities, social status, different opinions, different ways of doing things, different interests, different likes and dislikes. And I think that's beautiful. That's the beautiful tapestry of our communities. We are different from each other, and therefore we can complement each other. But what happens if we lose sight of that trunk? What happens if we lose sight of the unity that we have? If we forget that we are all human beings, first of all? My tree teaches me that diversity must be balanced by a consciousness of unity. Differences are great as long as they are moderated by a consciousness of unity. As long as we remember that we belong to the same tree. As I said, a broken branch is no longer useful for a tree. And let us not forget that for the branch, the tree is much more important than the branch is for the tree. Or as Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, once wrote, "What is bad for the beehive cannot be good for the bee." What is bad for our societies, for our communities, cannot be good for the individual. Our differences should join together, should complement in order to work for the tree. Society, our community, helps us a lot in our everyday life. But we also have a duty to give back. We also have a duty to serve our societies. Otherwise, we're just like that broken branch. My evergreen tree teaches me about eternal youth. It is always green, summer or winter. We human beings go through seasonal changes. For example, in the summer, our body tends to be more fit, leaner. In the winter, we usually develop some layers of protection. In the summer, we're out and about in the world of action. In winter, we're in and within in the world of reflection. And this is true about life in general. In the spring of our years, when we are young, the future seems endless. Everything is possible. Nothing and no one can stop us. And as we grow older, our youthful dreaming is balanced by common sense and experience. Hopefully, we don't stop dreaming as we get older. It's kind of sad when we stop dreaming. It's kind of sad when we just let our lives be sort of a mechanical repetition of the same actions. When we stop learning from life, when we stop improving, when we stop growing, that's when we really start to get old. Some people can be physically old, but young in heart. Forever young, as Bob Dylan said. Some people are young, but in their heart they're already old because they stopped dreaming. How do we find that inner youth, that eternal youth? Well, just like we have seasonal aspects that continuously change, we also have deep within us, in our core, an evergreen element, something that doesn't change, an inner fountain of youth, an inner source of renewal, of enthusiasm, of inspiration. It's worthwhile to try and find that source within us, that source that we carry within us wherever we go. If we are able to connect to that source, there is no reason we shouldn't be able to remain young, forever young. And finally, my tree teaches me about presence. My tree doesn't do anything unusual to get noticed. He's just there, being himself. Yet he's the first thing you will notice when you approach my building. He provides shade to passerby in the summer. In the winter, he stands out among the other gray, leafless branches of other, more seasonal trees. And yet he doesn't call for attention. He teaches me that sometimes we also can just be ourselves. We don't need to do anything special. We don't need to say anything. We can just be ourselves. Just be. And if we master that art of being ourselves, we can give an example just by being ourselves. Just by being ourselves, we can teach. Just like my tree teaches me.